This is my ranking of every upcoming Image Comics adaptation by how excited I am for them. Except The Walking Dead because I already made a separate video based on that, link in the description. And since Image has acquired the rights to both Transformers and G.I. Joe from IDW, I'm going to include those franchises too. There's going to be a lot of obscure projects in this list, but I still thought I should include them. And because there's so many projects, I'm not going to go super in-depth on each of them, but I will explain the basic premises. But enough of me rambling, let's get to the ranking. At number 91, yeah, this is going to be a long video, I have the animated Spawn Kids show. Now, Spawn is one of the most violent and dark anti-heroes in the entire Image universe, so he's probably the last Image character who should be catered towards kids. At number 90, I have Transformers Earthspark Season 4. This show is just bad. I don't know how it got renewed for 3 seasons, let alone 4, but I am not excited at all for it. At number 89, I have Trees. It's going to be a TV series about aliens who invade Earth, but don't attack humans and instead just stand still like trees. The comic is very pretentious and politically focused, which does not interest me. At number 88, I have Infidel. This will be a movie about a group of multiracial roommates whose house becomes haunted by racist spirits. I can't even say that with a straight face. The comic seems weird and preachy, so I'm not at all excited for an adaptation. At number 87, I have Devoid of Life. This will be a sci-fi movie about a group of scientists under attack from an alien threat, a very generic premise, and apparently the comic was confusing and boring, so I'm not excited for it to be adapted. At number 86, I have the Amory Wars. This is an animated project about a group of factions who battle each other in space, so it's basically a Star Wars ripoff. And the comic has gotten mixed reviews at best, so this doesn't sound promising. At number 85, I have Hack Slash. This is going to be a TV series about a woman who hunts down and kills monsters and serial killers, so it's basically the opposite of a standard horror movie. The premise is interesting, but the writer for the series worked on Hitman and X-Men Origins Wolverine, so yeah, this show might be cooked. At number 84, I have G.I. Joe Ever Vigilant. This is going to be the sequel to Retaliation and will conclude the G.I. Joe trilogy. It'll also have Matt Traker and the Paoli twins as villains. While I'm not a fan of the first 2 G.I. Joe movies, I am still at least kind of curious to see how the franchise is going to end. At number 83, I have Youngblood. This is going to be a movie based on the Youngblood superhero team. Its main members include Shaft, their leader who uses a high-tech bow, Badrock, a teenager who is a living rock, and Chapel, an assassin who is the same guy who killed Al Simmons, leading him to become Spawn. And while I really like Youngblood, the movie will be directed by Brett Ratner, who also made X-Men The Last Stand. And after that movie, I don't trust him to make any good superhero media ever again. Like, yeah, he made Rush Hour, but that's a completely different kind of movie. I want to be excited for this movie, but I just wish that it had a better director. At number 82, I have Roche Limit. This is going to be a sci-fi TV show about a crime-ridden colony living in space. It just sounds kind of generic in my opinion. At number 81, I have Epic Kill. This is going to be a movie about an 18-year-old assassin who tries to avenge her parents' deaths, while also fighting against the US military when they try to stop her. I honestly don't know enough about the comic to be seriously excited about this one. At number 80, I have Battle Chasers. This is going to be a fantasy movie that follows 5 wizards as they try to stop 4 powerful villains. While it sounds interesting, the comic got cancelled, meaning that the movie will be based on an incomplete story, which is always annoying. At number 79, I have The Red Star. This will be a movie set in an alternate history version of the Soviet Union. I heard the series was decent, but the premise just doesn't sound super interesting to me. At number 78, I have Crosswind. It's going to be a TV show where a hitman and a housewife switch bodies. Now, not only is the body switch a very overdone trope, but this idea sounds like it would work a lot better as a movie instead. It still has potential, but I'm very cautious about it. At number 77, I have Witchblade. This is going to be a live-action series based on Witchblade. Now, I like Witchblade, but this show has been in development since 2017, and the producers attached to it haven't worked on anything groundbreaking, so this will probably be a very average series, if it even comes out. At number 76, I have Danger Girl. It's going to be a movie about a trio of female spies. It's just a Charlie's Angels ripoff, let's be real here. At number 75, I have Tank Girl. This is going to be a complete reboot of the original Tank Girl movie. The first movie was really stupid, but it was also entertaining how insane it was, so I am kind of curious to see how this will turn out. At number 74, I have Prophet. This is based on the Youngblood villain Prophet. He was experimented on during World War II, eventually becoming an assassin before later changing his ways and trying to redeem himself. He basically has the same backstory as Winter Soldier. While I think it has potential, I just personally don't think that Prophet is interesting enough on his own to justify his own project. At number 73, I have Chuckles. This is going to be a movie in the G.I. Joe franchise based on the character of the same name, who hasn't been in live action yet. There's very little info about it beyond that. At number 72, I have Lions, Tigers, and Bears. It will be a live action movie about a boy whose stuffed animals come to life and go on adventures with him. It sounds like an interesting idea, but I think that it would make more sense as an animated series. At number 71, I have Lady Jaye. This is going to be a spin-off movie about Lady Jaye and will come out after G.I. Joe Ever Vigilant. While I like Jaye as a character, I just don't think she really needs her own solo movie. At number 70, I have the Revival movie. This is going to be a supernatural mystery where the dead come back to life, and a detective must solve her sister's murder before she was revived. Revival is a pretty good comic, but we're already getting a TV show about it, so I don't know why we're getting a movie too. At number 69, I have Postal. This is going to be a Hulu series set in the fictional town of Eden, Wyoming, which is a town fully made up of reformed criminals. The main character is a son of the corrupt mayor of the town, and he tries to take down his father and improve the state of the town. Now, the idea sounds interesting, but I'm not familiar enough with the Postal comics to get super excited over this. At number 68, I have Darkchylde. This is an upcoming movie about a girl who must save her town from monsters that came from her nightmares. The concept sounds interesting, but it has been in production hell for a long time. At number 67, I have Crosshair. This is going to be a movie about an American assassin who tries to prevent the assassination of the president. It's not a unique concept, but the comic does look pretty good, so this could be good too. At number 66, I have the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen reboot. This will be a complete reboot of the series and will be more female-centered. I'm glad we're getting another movie, but I'll need to hear more info about it before I get really excited for it. At number 65, I have Five Ghosts. This is going to be a TV series about a man with dissociative identity disorder with the ability to take different forms and have different abilities. So he's basically Moon Knight. It sounds kind of interesting. At number 64, I have The Pro. This will be a movie based on the Pro comic, which is a one-shot story that parodies superhero cliches. It doesn't take itself very seriously, which is always a breath of fresh air, so I think this movie could be good. At number 63, I have Elephantmen. This is going to be a movie set in a dystopian future and follows a group of human-animal hybrids as they try and integrate with human society. It sounds really weird, but also very interesting. At number 62, I have Injection. This is going to be a TV series about a group of scientists who try to save Earth from a rogue AI that they created. Now again, this doesn't sound super unique, but even a generic concept can be done well, and the comic is written by Warren Ellis, who is pretty well respected in the comics industry. At number 61, I have the Jinx TV show. This is going to be about a female bounty hunter named Jinx and her relationship with a con artist named David. It sounds interesting enough. At number 60, I have Birthright. This will be a movie about a boy who travels to an alternate dimension. The premise does sound interesting. At number 59, I have XXXombies. This is going to be a movie about an adult film producer who gets caught in the middle of a zombie outbreak. The comic is very short, so this has the potential to be a fun B-movie. At number 58, I have Chew. This will be a TV show about a psychic FDA agent who solves crimes. It has more of an anthology format, which is why I think it'll work well as a TV series. At number 57, I have Stray Dogs. This is going to be a thriller movie about a group of talking dogs who go on a quest for revenge against a serial killer who killed their owners. This concept does sound very interesting, so I'm pretty hyped to see this adapted. At number 56, I have Manifestations. This is going to be a horror movie about a young girl with supernatural abilities. The comic is very good, so I'm hyped to see it in live action. At number 55, I have God Country. This is going to be a Netflix movie about an old man who uses an enchanted sword to fight supernatural creatures. It's directed by Jim Mickle, who is a pretty good director. At number 54, I have The Maxx. This will be a movie about a homeless man who obtained superpowers after he travels to an alternate dimension, eventually becoming the superhero known as the Maxx. That premise sounds absolutely insane, and I can't wait to see this on screen. At number 53, I have Pax Romana. This is an upcoming miniseries where the Catholic Church sends futuristic technology back in time to ancient Rome in order to ensure that it stays powerful in the future. The premise sounds pretty intriguing. At number 52, I have Magdalena. This is going to be a movie based on the biblical character Mary Magdalene, who uses the Spear of Destiny to fight supernatural creatures. This is another project that just sounds completely insane, and I think it could be a pretty fun movie. At number 51, I have Who is Jake Ellis? This is going to be an action movie about a man named Jake Ellis who has the power of invincibility and goes on the run with a spy, which is a very interesting premise. At number 50, I have Alibi. This will be a movie about twin brothers who live double lives as assassins. Now, the comic only had one issue published, but the concept sounds very interesting. At number 49, I have the Revival TV series. This is separate from the Revival movie that was announced, and I honestly think the comic would work much better as a series, and it's coming out very soon on June 12th, so I'll definitely be sure to check it out. At number 48, I have the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen TV series. There's very little information about this series, but it's being written by Michael Green, who worked on Logan and Blade Runner 2049, so I think this project is in good hands. At number 47, I have Lazarus. This is going to be a TV series set in a dystopian future where all territories of the world are ruled by 16 families who are at war with each other. The series is very violent and has very morally gray characters. It sounds a lot like Game of Thrones, except sci-fi instead of fantasy. I think it sounds very interesting. At number 46, I have the Fear Agent movie. This is another project that is getting both a movie and a TV adaptation. Now, the Fear Agent comics are very weird, but they're basically about a superhero named Fear Agent who goes on adventures in space and protects the galaxy from alien threats. It has some horror elements sprinkled in as well, but it's a very good series. The movie has the budget to do it justice. At number 45, I have Son of Shaolin. This will be a martial arts movie about a man who seeks revenge against the man who murdered his family. Not a unique premise, but the original comic is very well written and stylized, so I hope this movie can adapt it properly. At number 44, I have the Astro City movie. This will be set in a world with superheroes and supervillains, but shown from the perspective of everyday civilians, which is an idea that I don't think has been done before, except for The Boys, I guess. I think it's a very solid idea, though. At number 43, I have Enormous. This is going to be a post-apocalyptic TV show where humans must learn to survive against massive creatures called the Enormous. I don't know a lot about the comic it's based on, but the premise is very similar to Attack on Titan and The Walking Dead. So if it can be like those shows, then I'm interested. At number 42, I have The Darkness. This is going to be a movie based on the character of the same name, who first appeared in the Witchblade comics. He's an anti-hero who has the power to summon demons and shadows. While he's a really cool character, I think he works better as a supporting character than as the protagonist. But still, this comic has potential because it has some very good material to work off of. At number 41, I have The Sword. This will be a movie about a woman who uses a magical sword to seek revenge on a trio of siblings after they murder her family and leave her paralyzed. This idea isn't super groundbreaking, but I do like a good revenge story. At number 40, I have the Fear Agent TV series. The reason why I have the series above the movie is because the Fear Agent comics have a very serialized story, so I think the extra runtime you get with a TV show would really help flesh out the more confusing parts of the series. And plus, the movie has been in development hell for over a decade, so the show is much more likely to actually come out. At number 39, I have the G.I. Joe TV series. This is going to be the first live-action show in the franchise, so I am interested to see how this is going to turn out. At number 38, I have the Radiant Black audiobook. This is going to be an audiobook adaptation of Radiant Black, which is amazing because Radiant Black is probably the most underrated Image Comics character. He might even be my favorite character in the entire Image universe. Like seriously, if Invincible can get his own show, then so should Radiant Black. I'd highly recommend you guys watch the Radiant Black vs. Blaze short film, it's really good. I'll put it in the description below. But yeah, this audiobook sounds fun. At number 37, I have Hardcore. This is going to be a movie about a superhuman soldier who tries to save the world without killing anybody. It's very early in development, but I think that the idea has potential. At number 36, I have the Astro City TV series. I personally think that Astro City works best as a TV series because with an episodic format, you could make each episode about a different story, and since the comic has been going on for so long, you could really pick and choose which stories to adapt. At number 35, I have Deadworld. This will be a movie following a group of survivors in a zombie apocalypse as they try to find and kill their leader, King Zombie. That premise sounds absurd, but also interesting. At number 34, I have Mage. This is going to be a movie about a young nerd who gains superhuman abilities and goes on a fantasy adventure. It's a very long series, going on for 35 years, from 1984 to 2019, and this adaptation is going to be made by Lloyd Levin, who worked on the Watchmen movie, which I actually liked quite a lot. So I think that this movie has the potential to be another solid adaptation. At number 33, I have Avengelyne. This is going to be a movie starring the Image character Avengelyne, who is an angel who fights demons and monsters, and Margot Robbie will be starring as Avengelyne. I'm not very familiar with the character, but I think that someone as charismatic as Margot Robbie being attached to it makes it a lot more interesting. At number 32, I have Wayward. This is going to either be a live action or an anime adaptation of the Wayward comic series, which is about a woman named Rory Lane who defends her family and neighborhood from supernatural creatures. It's very similar to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but it's a very solid series, and I hope it becomes an anime because that would just be awesome. At number 31, I have The Old Guard 2. The first Old Guard movie was pretty good, so I'm excited for the sequel. At number 30, I have G.I. Joe and Hasbro. This is going to be a movie that crosses over G.I. Joe with other Hasbro properties like Micronauts, Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light, Mask, and ROM. Now, while these are wildly different franchises, I'm a big fan of weird crossovers, so I'll definitely check out this movie just because of how insane it sounds. At number 29, I have Criminal. This is going to be a TV show spanning multiple time periods and tells the story of several interconnecting crime families. The comic is really good, and there are some solid actors who will be appearing in this series, so I'm pretty hyped for it. At number 28, I have Rising Stars. It's going to be a movie where a mysterious light causes 113 people to gain superpowers. I'm not very familiar with the comic, but the author who wrote it is going to be the one writing the script for the movie, which is always nice to see. At number 27, I have Kill or Be Killed. This is going to be a movie about a college student who becomes a vigilante after bonding with a demon and starts hunting down criminals in order to make himself live longer. Now, that is an awesome premise on its own, but it's also going to be directed by Chad Stahelski, who directed the John Wick movies. At number 26, I have O.C.T. This is going to be a TV show about the Occult Crimes Task Force, a New York police division that protects the city from people who practice dark magic. The premise sounds cool, but the comic only has 4 issues, so it doesn't really make sense to adapt it as a TV series when there's so little material. At number 25, I have Analog. This is going to be a movie set in a dystopian world where privacy doesn't exist and corporations have more power than countries, and it follows one CIA agent who tries to fix the broken world. I think this idea has potential. At number 24, I have Knights. This will be an animated series set in a world where vampires and other supernatural beings live alongside humans. And I don't want to say any more because I don't want to spoil the story, but I will say that the comic has many twists and turns and is much different than your standard vampire story. At number 23, I have Undying Love. This is going to be a movie about a man who falls in love with a vampire and must defeat an even more powerful vampire in order to free her from her curse. Now, not only is the premise very interesting, but it's a concept that sounds like it's meant to be a movie and not a TV show. At number 22, I have the Luchadores 5 movie. This is going to be a movie about 5 Lucha Libre superheroes who defend LA from criminals and monsters. I haven't read much of the comic it's based on, but it has the potential to be a very fun adventure movie. At number 21, I have Thief of Thieves. This was going to be a TV series about a thief who steals from other thieves. The comic was written by Robert Kirkman, who made The Walking Dead and Invincible. While I think this series can be good, it has been stuck in development hell for 9 years now, so it might get cancelled. At number 20, I have The Wicked plus the Divine. This will be a TV show about a woman who gains supernatural powers, but as a consequence only has 2 years left to live. There's a lot of deep mystery and lore to the series, so I hope that it'll be renewed for multiple seasons in order to explore them all. At number 19, I have O.C.T. Occult Crimes Task Force. Like the TV series, this is going to be a TV movie based on the same comic, and like I said earlier, I think that making it as a movie makes a lot more sense. At number 18, I have the Angel Manuel Soto Transformers film. There is little information about this one, but Soto did make Blue Beetle, which was a pretty good movie, so I think including that movie's tone in a Transformers movie is a very good idea. At number 17, I have The Infinite Horizon. This is going to be a TV show that is loosely based on Homer's Odyssey and follows a soldier as he goes on a long journey home, facing many supernatural creatures along the way. I like a good adventure series, and this show sounds like it has promise. At number 16, I have the Jinx Movie. This is being developed separately from the Jinx TV show, but it's based on the same comic and story, and I personally think that it would work better as a movie. At number 15, I have Ultra. It's going to be a show about a superhero celebrity who tries to change her future after receiving visions from a fortune teller. The comic is very good, and it focuses more on characters than it does on action and traditional superhero tropes, and it's not very long either, so the show can have a set beginning and end without dragging itself out like The Boys. At number 14, I have Rat Queens. This is going to be an animated fantasy series that follows four teenagers as they go on adventures in a medieval setting. The comic it's based on is a very fun read, and it was definitely the right call to make this an animated series. At number 13, I have I Am No One. This is going to be a movie based on the No One comics, which is a spin-off of the Radiant Black comics that features the hacker vigilante called No One. While I'd much rather get a Radiant Black movie than an adaptation of a spin-off, I'll take what I can get. I hope it'll be good. At number 12, I have the Luchadores 5 video game. This game is in early development, but I think the concept would work well in a video game, and if it ties in with the movie, that would be pretty cool as well. At number 11, I have Loaded Bible. This is going to be an alternate history movie that follows Jesus Christ as he saves America from a vampire invasion. Yeah, sign me up. That sounds awesome. At number 10, I have Turf. This is going to be a sci-fi movie set in an alternate 1920s where gangsters fight against vampires and aliens. That synopsis just sounds amazing. I can't wait to see this insane movie in theaters. At number 9, I have Cowboy Ninja Viking. That title kind of speaks for itself. That just sounds awesome. Now, this movie has had many delays, but I hope that it comes to fruition because that premise alone sounds insane. At number 8, I have Sam and Twitch. This is going to be a TV series based on Sam and Twitch, who originally appeared as supporting characters in the Spawn comics before getting their own series. They usually deal with supernatural events despite not having any powers themselves. Now, I do really like Sam and Twitch as characters, and I think the TV format would fit them well, but I just hope this series will be connected to the upcoming Spawn movie, because these characters are at their best when they're interacting with Spawn. At number 7, I have the live-action Invincible movie. Now, a lot of people are against this movie for some reason, the main argument being that there's no need to make a movie when we already have the Invincible show, but that doesn't really make sense, because there are a lot of superheroes who have been adapted in both live-action and cartoons, like Spider-Man. He's had like a dozen cartoons made about him, and he's been rebooted in live action 3 separate times, and he still has an upcoming cartoon, live action movie, and animated movie all separate from each other. So I don't get why people think that putting Invincible in live action would be a bad idea. Now, I do think they should at least wait until the show's over before they make this movie, but if they make it right, it could end up being a solid adaptation just like the show. At number 6, I have G.I. Joe and the Transformers. I've wanted G.I. Joe and the Transformers to team up in the movies for a long time now, and in Rise of the Beast, we finally get some crossover with the two franchises. Although we don't know yet if this movie will cross over with the old G.I. Joe movies or will reboot them, either way, I hope they will be able to do both franchises justice. At number 5, I have the Invincible video game. This is going to be made by Skybound and will be connected to the Invincible show. There's not a lot of information about it, but Skybound also made the Walking Dead games, which are amazing. If this is a story-based game like those, then it really has the potential to be up there with Arkham and Spider-Man when it comes to superhero games. At number 4, I have the adult animated Spawn show. This is going to be released after the Spawn movie and will presumably tie in with it. Now, Spawn hasn't had his own solo project since his awesome cartoon from the 90s, so it is about time that he gets an animated series. And this series will be made by Todd McFarlane, and who better to make a Spawn show than the guy who literally created the character? At number 3, I have Bone. This is going to be an animated trilogy of movies about the comic series Bone, which is about two cousins who are skeletons for some reason and the adventures that they go on. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Bone comics. I grew up reading them when I was little, so I am very happy that it's being made into an animated movie. Hopefully, it'll do the comic justice. At number 2, I have King Spawn. This is going to be a live-action movie starring Jamie Foxx as Spawn and Jeremy Renner as Twitch. We haven't gotten a Spawn movie since 1997, and it was horrible, so this movie has been in production hell for a long time because of that. This movie will be told from the perspective of Sam and Twitch, and Spawn will be very mysterious, with his backstory set to be explored in a later movie. It'll have Jason Wynn and the Mafia as the primary villains, with Violator and Malbolgia set to appear in minor roles. Now, I think having a more grounded story makes sense for the first movie in a series, but I hope that the future sequels will be able to go all out with a higher budget. And at number 1, I have Invincible Season 4. Now, this kind of goes without saying. Invincible is easily the best image adaptation ever made. It's really no contest, and this next season is going to be very exciting, with the Sequids trying to take over Earth and Angstrom Levy plotting revenge on Mark. and this season is going to tell an original story where the devil himself is the main villain, so I'm super excited to see where the show goes next. And that is my ranking. I hope you guys learned something new in this video. I spent a lot of time researching comics that I never even heard before. Let me know which of these you are most excited for down in the comments. But I am Midnight Drift, and I will see you later.